What's up guys, and welcome back, very welcome back to another video. I have been waiting for this one. I've been waiting the whole weekend to get the new clutch, and it's finally here. So when I opened the box, to my surprise, I found a Saab original. This is the original clutch for the Vegan, made by Saab. So now I have a Saab original clutch plate, and I have the pressure plate Saab, and I have an original slave cylinder. So now everything is in order, and as you can see, if you compare these two, they have the exact same number, which is the OEM number, but still two very differently plates. You can see these springs are really much bigger on this one, and this looks more solid in my opinion. This looks a little bit cheap. Maybe this holds up as well, but I'm almost a little bit happy that I sort of failed this one, because this is the one you really want. So let's get going and install this, and to my help this time to get the gearbox in place, I have two M12 bolts that are really long, but we are going to use them in the gearbox. I'm gonna cut this off to a length, I don't know exactly now, but I'm gonna tell you later. So you mount this in the engine, then you could just slide the gearbox on these bolts, so it will like rest on the guiding pins, and you could just focus to align the axle into the clutch plate, so you get it perfect, and it should just slide in, no excessive power needed. So let's do this and see how it goes. Finally, I conquered the gearbox. Success. Huge shout out to Herman and Johan H at Saab Turbo Club Sweden for giving the tip on these guiding pins. This made it a whole lot easier to get it in place. And now it's aligned. The drive shaft is in. So with the gearbox in place, it's just to attach the other drive shaft and then move on in the reversed order with the engine mount and then the subframe and everything. And don't forget to refill the oil. So the car has been sitting a while since I failed the first clutch, and I have done the body kit. So now is the time to remember in which order I did everything. So it's just to start work, and soon we will have it back down on the wheels again, which will be a sight to be seen. So let's go ahead and just install everything. And now it's time to refill the oil in the gearbox. Just make sure everything is tightened down, the drive shafts are in correctly. Then unbolt the little one up here, and you gotta have some kind of special filler. So I'm using the original oil. I don't know, I have had these for a couple of cars, and I have used some Redline MTL oil, and both of them have worked perfectly, so not a big of a difference. Many say that the Redline MTL oil is perfect and like a one that repairs your gearbox, but I think this works good, and I have not had any problems with the gearbox so far. So the gearbox requires between 1.9 and 2 liters of oil dry, but the gearbox isn't dry because it's like a film of oil on the gears and around everywhere. So 1.8 liters is the volume that we're going to fill. This has been a really tough one, I ain't gonna lie, but it's easier to do it on an OG93 than the NG93 and the 95, because the subframe is much more easier on this one. But either way, the last part that we have to do before mounting the last pieces together is bleed the slave cylinder. So I have attached this container that has a one-way valve in it, so it lets the oil, brake fluid, through the valve and air through the valve, but it won't suck anything back. So what I'm going to do is just, and the little valve sits down here where the brake line attached, not the brake line, the hydraulic line for the clutch, where the slave cylinder sits down there. So what we do is use one of these tools, and this is to pressurize the container with brake fluid. So you gotta make sure this stays filled all the time, and then you connect it to, like, you can use a compressor or you use a tire to just connect and take the air from here, and then you just open up the little valve there and you release all the air bubbles until it's just coming pure oil out. Then you're done, and just tighten it down and we are good to go. So when I have the car up in the air, I'm going to bleed the slave cylinder, and then I'm going to bleed the brakes all the way around, because I think it's a good thing to do when I have everything up in the air. So then you start from the furthest back and you move forward so you come close to the container. So when I tried to bleed the clutch, this valve, or this little bolt, when I started to remove it or start to release it to let some oil out, it started to leak, and I got really scared for a minute. I saw some oil dripping on the floor, and it was coming out from the gearbox, and no oil was coming through the bleeder valve. So I thought to myself, shit, something is wrong with the clutch. I have not tightened down something. So I start to investigate and turn on a lot of lights. I pulled the little inspection cover that's there, and everything seemed to be in order, and I managed to find that the leaking part, or the oil, did come from this little fellow here. So as soon as I released it, just a little tiny bit, it started to wiggle a lot. So I thought the threads might be shot. It looked quite okay, but it sure isn't. So I tried to put some pressure on the system, and when it's fully in place and tightened down, it holds pressure, but as soon as you release it just a tiny bit, it starts to leak. So I got a new one here. So I'm going to install this and hope this fixed the problem, and we could eventually put on the tires and lower the car to the ground, which would be an amazing accomplishment, because this car has been in the garage for almost 2 weeks now, and that was not the idea from the start, but that's the thing with cars. I was using this pneumatic bleeder and it worked kinda good. It took away some air bubbles and it definitely put some oil into the slave cylinder, but the clutch didn't feel perfect. It was something missing, and I tried it over and over and over and over again, and I got a tip from Saab Turbo Club Sweden to use an oil can, regular oil can, and just put a vacuum hose on it and connect to the bleeder valve and push some brake fluid in the other way and up, and that worked perfect. So now the clutch is done. So now it's just to adjust the shifter linkage, and then we will be good to go and mount everything back. So finally the shifter linkage is done. It's correct. I can get all the gears. So now it's just to install the lambda connectors and the battery and the delivery pipe, and then we should be good to go to put on the wheels, lower the car, which will be an amazing feeling. This was supposed to be a project for a couple of days. Now the car has been on the jack stands for almost 3 weeks. Of course I have done other things by the time, like mounting the body kit and polish the whole car, so the time has not gone wasted, but it's so awesome to have this car back on the ground and drive it again. So hopefully, cross fingers, everything works now. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been 3 awful weeks of work, but finally it paid off and the car looks amazing out in the sun and it drives really good. Now I have just been around the neighborhood, but it works and no issues whatsoever so far. I just need to bleed the brakes a little bit because I felt The brake pedal was a little smooshy. But anyways, I hope you liked this video and I hope it's educational, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!